Welcome, and today we are going to be doing a review of the order of operations. If you remember, an operation is something that we do with numbers in mathematics, and so this includes things like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponents, all of those things, the things that we do with numbers, the arithmetic, so to speak. And so the order of operations is the order in which we decipher and decode those things in an expression. So for example, if I had 2 to the third power plus 7 minus 4 divided by 2, the order of operations dictates what order that I do all of those things in. And so that's why it's important, because the order that we do those operations in can change the answer. And so we have to have this set upon, agreed upon order that we'll do these things so that we do always come out with the same answer every time. So there is a couple of different ways that you can remember this order. You may have heard some fancy little sayings or some abbreviations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally or PEMDAS are two of them that I'm very familiar with. I tend to use GEMDAS. It is the same thing as PEMDAS, but with a G in the front, and we'll discuss why I use something different there. But if we are going by GEMDAS, it's important to know that G stands for grouping symbols. And that includes a bunch of different symbols. There are many symbols that are used other than just parentheses. If you've used PEMDAS, you've heard parentheses first. And parentheses are a grouping symbol. That is a type of symbol that groups things together. But there's more than just parentheses. There's brackets. There's absolute value bars. There's radicals. There are the division bar, the fraction bar. That is used to group things together. It groups things on the top and things on the bottom together. So these all fall into that grouping symbol category. So it's not just parentheses. It's not as simplistic as just parentheses. So we want to remember that the first order of operations is to always do anything that has been grouped together with some kind of grouping symbol. The second step is exponents. The exponents, that's that repeated multiplication. So we always want to do numbers with their exponents. This is extremely important to remember when you're dealing with calculators and negative numbers and exponents. Exponents is very strictly the second order of operations. Multiplying by a -1, subtracting a number. Those are things that are way down here at the end of the list of the order of operations. And so when you have an exponent, it overrides that negative number. So it's very important when you're using a calculator to remember that an exponent, if I want to do an exponent of a negative number, that negative number needs to be in parentheses. Otherwise, it's going to do the exponent first and then put that negative on there, that subtraction on there. So you want to make sure that you're very careful with this step, especially when you're using a calculator. Next is multiplication. All right. Multiplication and division, they kind of go together in this little step here. Multiplication and division, because all division is multiplying by the reciprocal of a number, multiplying by its flip. So multiplication and division are kind of a group together in and of itself, but technically multiplication comes first and then division. We take care of any multiplication and division, and then bringing up the rear, we had our addition and subtraction, and we do those last. In our society, we do read from left to right. So when we're doing our multiplication and division, when we're doing our addition and subtraction, we do tend to go from left to right in that order. However, we also know that multiplication and addition are commutative properties. So if I do my addition from right to left or my addition from left to right, it should not make a difference. But these are the order that we want to make sure that we're doing when we do mathematics. So for example, let's take a fairly straightforward example. If we have 5 plus 10 divided by 6 minus 3, and I wanted to figure out what this was. Things that I want to recognize first is that this bar, this fraction bar, is a grouping symbol. So it is grouping the stuff that is on the top together, and it is grouping the stuff that is on the bottom together. So that falls into my very first order of operations, my grouping symbols. And so that's what I'm going to want to take care of first. So first I would do 5 plus 10, which is 15. And then after I did that, I would do 6 minus 3, which is 3. And so I have to do those grouping symbols first. Then I would check for exponents. There weren't any exponents. Multiplication, no multiplication. I do have division. This fraction bar, the fraction bar is another symbol for division, and we want to remember that. So this is 15 divided by 3, which would equal 5. And now I have nothing left to do operation-wise, and that would be my answer. So we go in order. Another example. If we have 3 minus 6 to the second power plus 8 divided by 4. All right. So again, order of operations tells me to look for grouping symbols first. I do have some parentheses here. So I want to deal with my parentheses first. I've got 3 minus 6, which is negative 3. Now, as mentioned, when we're doing these negative numbers to an exponent, we want to be very careful. Now, we have no other grouping symbols here to deal with. So the next thing we want to do is deal with our exponent. We do have an exponent. This is negative 3 to the second power. And again, very important. I just want to show you on the calculator. If I have negative 3 squared and I just do negative 3 and I square it, it's going to tell me that that's negative 9. But remember what to square something really means. It means to multiply it times itself. So negative 3 times negative 3 does not equal negative 9. It equals positive 9. If I want the calculator to do the order of operations correctly, I've got to put that negative 3 in parentheses before I square it. So it is a good habit to get into to always write negative numbers to an exponent with parentheses. So negative 3 squared is going to be equal to 9. Now I have to do multiplication. No multiplication. Then I need to do division. I do have some division going on here. I need to do 8 divided by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is going to be 2. And now I'm left with 9 plus 2, and it's the only thing I have left. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up and get 11. If we had done 9 plus 8, we would have gotten 17. And then 17 divided by 4 would have given us a fraction. And that's a very different answer than 11. So again, order of operations is very important. This is true when we're also using algebraic expressions that have variables in them. For example, if I have x squared minus 5x plus 10, and I know that x is equal to negative 2. Don't forget that when we do this, we're just substituting everywhere we've seen an x with that number. And I want to get in that habit. Again, if I'm taking a negative number to an exponent, I want to get used to putting that in parentheses. And then we've got negative 5 times negative 2 plus 10. So order of operations, exponents first. Negative 2 squared is going to be 4. Next in my order of operations, I've got, let's see, we have multiplication. Multiplication, so this is negative 5 times negative 2, and a negative times a negative is going to be a positive 10. We've got the 4, and we've got another plus 10 over here. Now we can do the addition step going left to right. 4 plus 10 is 14, plus 10 is 24. So you can remember your order of operations as you're going along when you do substitution, and make sure that you do go in the correct order, and always be careful of those negatives.